Welcome, everybody, to the 2022 Power Rangers Mystic Force panel. I am Mike, Sam, and we're going to start on the far end and work our way through. Just say your name and the character that you played on Mystic Force.
Hi, my name's Jeff Dolan, and I was Korak.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for making it out today. I'm John Tui, and I played Solaris Knight Daggeron.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris Graham and I play Leonbo.
Hello, my name is Kelson Henderson and I played Phineas.
How you doing? I'm Richie and I play Xander.
I'm Jackie Marchand. I played a writer and producer on the show.
So I'm going to start off with a question that I've been mulling over for a couple days. Power Rangers Mystic Force is one of the first seasons to really incorporate magic as a theme. But with magic and television, you're very much limited by CGI technology at the time. So what I want to know is how you feel your role in the season, what you did, what you were capable of, may change if the season were produced in 2022 versus 2006. I'm trying to ask some different questions.
I think Jackie should answer that because, you had to write to the budget, right? And you had to write to what we were capable of.
Yeah, I think for the times and the visual effects available at the time and the budget, I think the show was full of really wonderful special effects. And as a writer, if I wrote something in, very rarely would it come back like we can't do that. They would just, the special effects teams and the producers would find a way, like with your tree stuff and like with a lot of the magic stuff, we just filled it with magical special effects. As far as today, of course, things have changed a lot. I'm not sure if it would be better. I just think that we did the best that we could at the time, and it came off like as a very, very magic heavy season.
I agree with that. I was going to say there's something nice about seeing special effects that aren't CGI. We did the tree properly, like it was real bark on my face, and it may have taken 20 hours, but it was worth it. Whereas these days I'd probably just put a piece of green over my face or wear something green and then they'll just put it on later. So I was already in green.
That's a really good point, Richard, because our makeup and wardrobe just was so magnificent that we created a world that seemed really magical if we didn't have the money for all the special effects in the world.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that actually because I think that in New Zealanders, we have a reputation for really, really going the extra mile when it comes to improvising and making things up, and I think there's a certain amount of honesty in the way that we create new content, because back then it was new content, even for us, even for our special effects team. So I don't know, like I don't want to take anything away from what's happening now, but I kind of think there was a real synergy between the actors and the art department and the costume and wardrobe and a real community feel and a sense to create something really rich and honest. So it made us work harder, certainly. Like, Richard, as he said, had to sit in a chair for a couple of hours getting bark on his face, or maybe 20. He had to be there the day before. But, that sort of stuff, obviously they can speed that up nowadays, but, in the day it gave him an opportunity to have a sense of depth in his character.
Okay, so one of my questions is, so after you were casted as your characters, how did you obviously like the character was written and everything like that, but how did you make the character your own, like for each one? It's like because like a lot of you like, especially like with voices too, like how did you create the character your own, even though it's like the character was there, it's like the general description, personality, and role wise like was written on paper, like you had to find the person in yourself is how is that process for each of you?
Phineas really just came from the animal noise. And I remember for the audition, he was meant to be eating a carcass, and I remember just rehearsing at home, buying roast chickens, and like doing the audition, eating roast chicken, and that's where Phineas really came from. That whole noise and things all came from trying to eat a roast chicken. The weird thing is that to start with, Phineas was going to be two personalities in one body. And there was lots more actually, I guess, Gollum Smeagol, like really deliberately talking to two halves. And we started filming that way, and then very quickly realized that it wasn't quite working for us. So then we kind of came up with the kind of half-thought talk to himself, oh, what am I doing? Yeah, okay, I'm good, yeah. So actually, if you watch the first episode, it is a little bit more very directly two things, and then evolved into that kind of muddle-headed character. Yeah. There's a story.
That's great. I might add to that. Sometimes the casting has a big role to play. So if they cast it right, generally you cast quite similar to your character already. So I found with Xander, I already kind of understood this. There was a lot of similarities between me and Xander. And then when we were doing table reads, I started with an American accent, but maybe because my accent wasn't good enough, I started doing an Australian accent, and it started to sing a little more, and I could bring more of my own personality to it, and then that kind of just felt right. And then I'd say once you get through the first couple of episodes and the writer starts seeing footage, then it becomes like this teamwork of they tend to write more for who you are and what you're bringing. So that's exciting because,
Yeah, 100%. We start off with broad characters and ideas, and then once the cast is set in, we'll say, oh my God, Rich is so charming. We'll write to that strength. I'm not kidding. It's like the character grows. Of course, Kelson, hilarious. Phineas is 99% of his creation, very original. But we start off with outlines, and then the actors just take them and make them sing if we're lucky enough to have such a talented cast.
It's a different perspective from the purely voice actor area. I feel like a bit of a fraud on here with real actors, I am one, and usually, but this time around, the audition process, you get given a description of what your character is about, and of course within the name Korag, the Night Wolf, you get given a sort of a definition of where his spirit is, and so I really thought about that wolf aspect of it and where I got into the voice, especially during the fighting, getting it into a real sort of wolfish growl to support that aspect of it. In the audition, I didn't really know what the character looked like either. So once I came into the studio and saw the footage, it gave me another new direction of, wow, okay, this guy's quite a warrior side of things as well. So that again alters your voice. It's a different perspective, and because you don't have the physicality to support it, because you're sitting in a box with a microphone in front of you, you sort of really have to focus in on what your voice is portraying. So you get good notes back from producers and writers as it progresses. Now we see this happening for this series and as we're going along, and that helps you again evolve the voice. But you'd be amazed if they ever filmed in the studio, say during Korag's fight scenes and stuff like that. It got real physical. You had to really get into it to really portray things. So I was in there swinging arms and kicking and doing all sorts of stuff just to give it the genuine the effect as you were doing it, getting hit and throwing myself around. So I wish that was filmed. That would have been hilarious to watch. It's like you're just being punched by this invisible thing in a room. It's like, so that's the voice aspect of it.
And I'm actually going to touch on for that side of the panel for a second. So we have an interesting case where with Jeff and Chris, they're actually portraying the same person, the same character, albeit in different means. And then with John, you played Doggy the season prior, but then you played a completely different character this time around. So there's a completely different disconnect, a completely different way of playing the characters. So I was wondering with the three of you, either because you had two people kind of playing the same character or a completely different way of looking at a character from prior, how you approached that. I don't know if you two were able to collaborate and figure out, like, I'm doing this, maybe you should do this, or something along those lines.
I didn't find out that there was going to be a Linbo until about 2 weeks before I finished.
Wow.
I got told, oh, you've only got a couple more weeks of filming. I went, what's that? They said, oh, they're introducing this human version of you. And I was like, what? I didn't even get an audition. Sure that they want to take me, no, but that was it. So that was like, oh, so there was no change for me from that aspect, because Korag shouldn't have been affected by that. He didn't know he was under control, and that otherwise would have modified the character too much. Might have been interesting towards the end for that knowledge to be there, that it could have been bubbling underneath and creating a sort of an emotional challenge for him or a mental challenge for him. But yeah, 2 weeks notice, a bit late to sort of throw things in. So I don't think it changed things too bad. And it was a great job not that I ever saw Chris do his job, because I've never seen the show, because we don't get it in New Zealand. So until it came up on YouTube or something like that, I might have been able to watch it. But yeah, because it wasn't screening in New Zealand, we never got to see the product afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the question almost rests in the hands of the writers, because and the producers and even the directors, because they're the ones that get an opportunity to put this together. It's like a great big huge jigsaw puzzle. And as Jeff was saying, one of the things, like, I didn't know anything about Korag. Well, I knew about him, but I didn't know it was Jeff, and I didn't know he was the voice and stuff like that. So, and you know what? Now that he said what he said, the kind of pennies dropped for me as well. That it was kind of good that I didn't know Korag, like, really, or metaphorically. So so I guess for me, for my own character, for Linbo, he was a bit of a gift, really, and I blindly walked into it, and I don't know, like, part of me actually wants to ask the writers some questions now that we've got them in the room, because. Because those, as Jeff was saying, we didn't get to see the show. We don't know what it looked like from the beginning to the end. So a lot of it was, it's like a bit of a jigsaw. Even after 17 years, we're still putting parts of that puzzle back together. And we're, thanks to the fan base, we're getting an opportunity to get a sense of the depth and background of the characters that we've been playing. And it's kind of this really long, slow journey. It's probably a little bit like a mystic force. But do you know what I mean? Like, we're kind of finding out about ourselves every day. And maybe it's in the writing. Maybe they put it in the writing, and there's little seeds in there that allow us to kind of do the things that we do and portray the things that we do, that they get to see and you get to see as an audience before we even get to see them. And then a lot
of it's a part of the product, part of the industry.
Sure.
As an actor, we've got to trust that the producers and the writers and the directors are creating their vision, and we provide our input to that via our characters and our acting and our voices. So for us to worry too much about what their ultimate view is, it would be defeating the purpose a little bit. We get good notes back from them. And the directors, during any filming or any recording session, you have a director in the studio with you, gives you good notes on, okay, you need to do this because previous to this happened. And so that's how and you go, oh, okay, I understand a bit more about it, and go forward from there. So there's a lot of trust on all aspects, from us to the producers and writers, etc., and on the other end too, from them going, it's your job to put that on the screen for us. So, yeah.
How about you, JT?
Yes. Just bringing it back to playing Solaris Knight. So the year before playing Doggy Kruger, I'd based, like I said this at the other panel, for a quick fix, I do a lot of cheats, and I based Doggy Kruger on George C. Scott's performance as Patton, which was an Oscar-winning performance, 1970. He was very militant and a father figure. For Solaris Knight, I auditioned. People said that how did you feel when they offered you the role? It wasn't offered. I auditioned for that role. I fought for it like everybody else, and was grateful enough to be casted in it again. So it wasn't a planned move. But when it came to trying to shed the last character that I played, Doggy Kruger, I was kind of in a similar position of playing another mentor who was very strong and very stern. So I did my trick again, and then I based Solaris Knight on Russell Crowe's performance as Maximus, which is another award-winning performance in Gladiator that I'm never going to get an Oscar for or anything. But for me, it was a good base to start from. And then when I read the script, I knew that he was stern, but he was more like an uncle and a leader, more than the stern general that I played the year before. And then to be able to do it in a different accent was good. So I played him closer to Russell's natural accent, which was Kiwi. The Aussies have claimed it. And that's where I went with that. So the voicing and the posture and everything was based on that. And that's just an easy, quick fix as an actor to try to embody something really fast for a show that's high octane, very fast and powerful. Like Jeff was saying, when we're in the booth and we're going here and ready, the energy that it takes to even get to that level isn't something you just wake up and have a cup of coffee. Something you lean into. So every actor has their own process of doing that. So yeah, that was me with Solaris Knight when I auditioned and got casted for it. And the fact that listen, man, this whole weekend's been awesome for me, seeing the diverseness, also the inclusiveness that the Power Ranger community has had. We are the most inclusive, diverse culture in film and TV that's out there ever, and I'm part of a few other franchises. It's not about being macho, it's about accepting yourself, accepting others, standing up for yourself, and standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. So this being and seeing all the different series come through here and watching all their panels and seeing their sightings, it's a great thing to be part of. And I think this weekend I've really realized how great and how grateful I am to be part of this. So yeah, but that's my Solaris Knight process. Thank you.
So there were definitely a lot of sets for Mystic Force. Like you had the forest, you had Briarwood, you had Rootcore, you had Rockporium, even Rockporium, which is really cool. And I was curious, what was some of your guys' favorite sets to be on? Like whenever you guys filmed that day, like what was your favorite set to be on normally?
Well, for me, it was the Rockporium because I love music. So working in a music store was kind of awesome, even if it wasn't real. But there were a lot of cool records and fake band names and stuff. I may have stolen a few little things when I left. I can say that now without being in trouble. But I was really nervous when I took a little Rockporium key chain thing and a bracelet. And yeah, the badge, yeah, I've still got that. But I really thought they were going to kick me out of the show and erase all my scenes if they call me, so yeah. But yeah, the Rockporium was super cool. And I was also the manager there, so I had some good scenes there and was a bit of a smart aleck, so that was fun for me. Yeah, nightmare for props. Anyone else?
My favourite was the recording studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was the end of the series when we were just at this rundown industrial with rocks and stuff, and I was going, this is the most grittiest set I've ever been on. And I'm thinking I should have some type of army fatigue on, but we were in our ranger uniforms in the sun. That was the most interesting for me. But the studios and being in the tree was nice. You know what I mean?
The tree was amazing. This is when you start thinking about developing the season, you think about the headquarters and what can it be, how can it reinforce a theme, and we thought of a giant tree. And then just from that idea, the amazing set decorators and creative elements just make it happen. And when you first step on the set and it's done, it blows your mind. It just blows your mind. So I thought that was one of my favorite sets that we ever came up with. It was really beautiful. magical.
I mean, it's not one of the big sets. I love Rockporium. For me, it's also because Phineas spent a lot of time just alone in the forest. So if I was in other sets, it meant I got to interact with other people. So, oh, this is cool. So Rockporium was choice because I just got to wander around and touch things. Like, what's that? Oh. But for me, the dentists, that whole dentist scene and all the like the dentist chair and the little props we had there, that was a great. I had a lot of fun that day because we got to shoot like just off Queen Street, so wandering down Auckland's biggest street dressed as Phineas, just like staring at people. That was fun, and then getting to play with Cameron and Barney and the dentists. It was a great fun day.
So I'm gonna bring up the Sentai for just a brief second. So in Magi Ranger, the series from Sentai that Mystic Force was adapted into, one of its biggest strengths is that it does character focus in terms of pairs of characters. Red and blue would get a pair of episodes, red and yellow would get a pair of episodes, and they got every single pair of characters their own focus. Mystic Force had 32, but compliments to the writing that you were very much able to pull that off and keep that kind of thing there, even though in a bit of an abbreviated version. So, and you had additional characters as well, such as Phineas. So I am curious for each of you, which character besides your own did you want to extrapolate a little bit on with an additional detail that you wanted to see the relationship between your character and another character go a little bit further?
I guess I'm the first. So I felt like Vita and I had quite a lot together, and we kind of bonded. We went through Petrified Xander together. Nick and I had a nice moment towards the end where I spoke to him about kind of being accepted by your peers and being bullied at school and helping him know that he had a family in us. So that was really nice. But with Melanie and Chip, I feel like probably for me, who was Mel's character again? Madison. That's right. Probably, yeah. I don't know if Xander and Madison had. Do you remember?
I don't think we had.
Yeah, that might have been something that wasn't there. And Chip, I felt like, was everyone's best friend, and he was just making us laugh constantly on the set and ruining takes by doing so. He is very funny. I don't know if do you follow him on Instagram, social media and stuff. He's a very clever guy.
I wanted to hang out with Chip. No, actually, no, I did. I've got, I also more Barney. I could happily spend the rest of my life jamming with Barney. He has a beautiful sense of play and creativity. I enjoyed any moment that I got to play with Barney, and I would like to have done more. And I think, the sort of characters we were playing side by side. I think there was room for them to have a lot more play. I think they were quite mineable if needed. I would be happy with that.
Spin-off idea.
The question sounds like you're looking at maybe pitching a second season. So I'm going to go with it.
I'm just going with thoughts, man. That's all.
No, well, I mean, honestly, we could probably name most of the characters. One of the things that now that I'm thinking of, I'm sitting next to him. I'm thinking about, Daggeron and Leanbow back in the day when they were like, they were earnest and they were aggressive and stuff like that. But we also know that people like that tend not to be like that earlier on in their lives. So there could have been something, when we were hitting the bars and stuff like that, and being reckless, and maybe we even kind of beat each other up every now and again. But I'll let them off now.
I would have loved to have more scenes with the Leanbow character, because when that reveal happens, it's a big reveal, because it's kind of Darth Vader-ish if you think about it. That surprised me because every time we read the script, it the actors looking for their lines first, and then we look at the story. It's just me. Listen, yeah, I would have loved to have more a deeper in story between the two characters, and why Dageron was so loyal to Liambo that he felt this guilt that he needed to raise his, not raise his son, but watch over his son as he grew. So I've always seen Dageron as like the Samwise Gamgee of the whole relationship between the warriors, and yeah, it's a very loyal friend. I would have loved to see more of that.
So there were a lot of villains on this show too, and like you have Matambu towards the very end. You have all the main evil villains and everything like that, and you also you of course had a lot of fighting scenes like outside of the suits and such. What were like a couple of your favorite villains, if you can remember, like fighting? Like Liambo also got to technically fight Nick, and when he was evil. And so, like, what were some of your favorite villains to fight, or favorite villains that even if they were only there for an episode or two, like each of you, which one do you remember that you had fun with the most?
I feel like, do you remember Mutumbo? Yeah. Yeah? That was a really special story. If I'm remembering this correctly, he was a really nice monster, was he? Yes. Yep. That's right. And that really pulled on my heartstrings, that one. We always loved Mutumbo, and we'd talk about him years after. Me and Angie. That was our favourite monster. And I just like the way it sounds. Mutumbo. You know what I'm saying? Mutumbo. Is that right? Yes. Please tell me it's right. Okay.
Well, I think I only had that one fight scene, but it was awesome.
It was a good one.
That was a great fight scene. Yeah, just that fight. I think that's probably my best fight scene. That was awesome fun. The stunt team did really well. I guess it helps when you've got like a rubber face, so we can sub it in out really easily. So yeah, it was very easy to make me look like I was a kung fu master, a comedy kung fu master, of course. That was a great fight scene.
When you have
literally
prosthetics,
wiping the floor with them.
Are they allowed to make contact because it's not your face? Like they don't have to pull any punches,
Yeah,
right?
we just put padding inside my cheeks and they could just head away.
Yeah, that's why it looked so great.
So I guess, I have to say it's with the master, and the reason why that is because the master's voice was Stuart Deviney, and Stuart Deviney was my tutor at drama school. So we beat him up at drama school, and I got to beat him up in Power Rangers. It was awesome, and he didn't even know. I don't think even to this day he might not even know. So I must tell him next time I see him.
My fight scene was with Nick, when Dageron and Nick have the sword, the joust, and me and Ferris and I have pretty big egos, so there's a lot of jousting on set, and he really relished beating Dageron, and I hated it, man. John the actor hated losing to him and he played up on that, which I felt helped the scene a lot more, and where the young bull beats the old the old one. But yeah, that was my favorite. Just having to get over myself, I think.
That's all I did was fight, really. I just fought everybody, and I didn't care what their name was, to the point where I didn't even want to remember what their name was. So yeah, it was quite weird. I'm just saying to John, and he was like, "Wow!" And I mentioned it yesterday in the Megaforce. So being the voice actor, I never met any of these guys at all. I've known Kelson for a long time. I think Chris and I may have worked together. John and I may have met during social events, but any of the international actors in the thing, I never met. And same with Megaforce. When I arrived on Friday for the convention, I walked up to the guys from Megaforce and said, "Hi, I was your Gosei," and they were like, "Wow!" And that was 10 years later, and this is 16 years later. So my only regret, that's a sort of a very isolated role you do when you're the voice actor. But my only gripe with the whole thing was that I never got invited to the rap party. So yeah, it was a good rap party. I've done 13 different seasons of the show, and I've never been invited to a rap party. So I need to sort that out.
Let's get that invite out for Jeff next time. That's what I'm saying. So now we're actually going to open it up to the floor for some questions. We're just going to, raising your hand and whatnot. I see one right there. My guy in the red was first.
No idea because we've never seen the shows. We'll have to leave that to the writer to answer.
It would be massive because SPD was like space cops. It was sci-fi, and then the next series was in the forest with magic. What will the crossover look like? Mushrooms.
Avatar.
Oh, right here in the front. The woman in the red.
Tell you in 2022, that was a deep question, man. That was me. That's all great questions.
That's the writer for the. That's the question for the writer.
Well, that was part of the show that was actually really tough because when you did have to come up with those verbiages, we would just sit in the room and say nonsense words and say, "Does this sound like something?" Or it had to sound strong and magical. So we would come up with a list of things and go around the room and say, "How does this sound? How does that sound?" So we tried our best. Luckily, there wasn't too many spells because that stuff is hard. Come up with that stuff is very hard.
I remember getting the first one I had to do, and Jim McClarty was my director in studio. And I just looked and said, "No one told me I had to speak Latin. What's going on here?"
Yeah, there was a lot of Latin influence.
It was great.
Correct.
So I was like,
correct.
how's it properly said? No, it was a challenge.
And then I saw this person in the green right here. How involved was Disney in the development?
Well, in the beginning, they were very much involved in the concept. Like we would pitch concepts to them, and they would say, "Go with this particular one." They would be somewhat hands off. I think in Mystic Force, they gave us a lot more creative control, and that's why Mystic Force, in my opinion, is a very specific. It's a world. It's a world of a season. So we were able to keep that contained world and still make it Power Rangers, but we just had this motif that was so strong. But yeah, we pitched it as a magical season, and of course off the Magi Ranger, and they, for the most part, they let us run with it. Yeah, definitely for Mystic Force, we had a lot of creative control.
The girl with the purple pink hair.
I went on to be him. So he'll have to ask that question.
My character, I felt, because he was still, once Liambo's character came back and their family was complete, I felt Liambo would be like that wandering samurai who would need another master and hopefully find love. That's what I thought.
He'd probably end up at our house because, yeah. Udonna would probably have a little bed out there for him, but because one of our last scene was driving into the sunset. Literally in New Zealand, we were driving out towards Piha. So in my mind's eye, that's where I ended up. I ended up out at Piha on the west coast. I don't know if any of you know that, but it's a beautiful wild coast with fantastic views as you come around the corner. It's just, it's just one of those things that kind of takes your breath away. But there are unusual people down there, I have to say. and we'd be a couple that would blend in really easily.
Oh, yeah, ended up on the convention circuit. I don't know. What do I want from Phineas? I think he wanted to go to the city. I think he took over the Rockporium. Yeah, that's what he did. He came and stole your thunder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was going to say Xander, he's pretty good at sales, and he's got a mouth, and he loved the Rockporium, so I think he would probably have a chain of Rockporiums around USA, and maybe if Phineas was lucky, he might be able to work buy some shares, and yeah, no, Phineas would be tight.
Right in front here.
I even have a better one that I thought of in my head. So this is for Richard. If you and Nick and the other Rangers were enrolled into Hogwarts, which house would you be in?
You're gonna hate me, but I've never seen Lord of the Rings in my life. See what I did there? No, I've never seen Harry Potter. I do want to read the books. My niece, who's 9, has read them all, and I haven't. So I'm going to go and steal them from her, and I'm going to read them, and then I'm going to watch the movie. Yeah, but
She must have told you what house you're in already. Like,
Oh,
as
so
an
we've-
insult.
Say
You're a
again?
Slytherin, like that, or something like that. She must have told you that in an insult. Uncle.
Probably. Oh, so that's what she was talking about. Yeah. So I'm sorry I can't answer that for you, mate.
SPD red.
They're not the same. They may look the same, but they're probably the same. So
That was the
This
SPD
is-
Mystic Force crossover right
it's
there.
called a crossover prop. So our set decorators definitely use as many props as we can.
New Zealand's
And
a very
actors.
green country, so we
It's a sm-
recycle a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of recycling.
But that's a good catch. Good catch.
I think he's SPD. I think he's just trying to find his lost stuff. It's been 15 years. He's just trying to find it now, write it off on the taxes or something. Right in the front here.
It was incredible, highly emotional, and by that point you've all been working on episode after episode after episode. So by that point you've got the whole story behind you, and that's really fun. Those last couple of episodes because you've done all the work, and then you're just kind of playing in there in that world that you've built. So yeah, it was a good time.
It's interesting you say that because that's what a Power Ranger is, right? All right. Like, and at the end of that, they collectively find the strength to overcome evil, no matter what the cost. So it was the grand finale, man. No way to end it but to fight, because you have to fight. And that's the message in life. No matter what, you have to fight. You have to keep fighting.
And that-
Great.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, popping off that, John, one of the things that we tried to accomplish with that is starting off with people in the city being afraid of people in the forest. So this fear that separated the civilians from the magical people, and that's something we definitely wanted to resolve at the end. And that taking away that fear and having everybody work together was the thing that defeated the baddies. So I hope you like that. I'm glad you got that.
Person in the white right there.
For me, it was what I'd do voice sessions in 5-hour blocks, and you do 2 or 3 episodes at a time. And Korag didn't have a huge amount of dialogue in each episode, and so what we'd do is I would record all the dialogue first, get the dialogue done, because then I'd spend the next 4 or 3.5 or 3 hours, generally a bit closer to 4, doing all the fight sequences, and the vocal energy and the vocal strain that goes into producing the noises and the sounds and the responses, etc. Trying to get it all in there. You do that for 4 hours, you rearrange your vocal cords big time. So I would walk out of the studio each time with, I took a couple of days for my voice to recover each time. Luckily, I'm opera trained, I'm singing trained, I voice trained through years in theatre, and so it would recover. But if you hadn't done that work, it could have done some serious damage to vocal cords and polyps, etc. So that was the most difficult aspect from my point of view.
I will second that, and I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm also glad to hear that a professional voice actor would lose his voice, because every week we'd go in and do ADR and do all those hits. I wouldn't be able to talk when I came out, and I was trying to record music at the time, and that was the one part of shooting Rangers that I actually didn't enjoy, because I knew it would take its toll on my voice, and I wouldn't be able to record during the week or sing, or even say my lines. And I don't know if I ever developed a technique I remember Nick Chip would do a lot of that, and he told me, like, he just never lost his voice. Like, he just somehow it just worked, but I've never been able to access that in my voice, to get the roughness without it hurting. So that was difficult.
I warmed up a lot, and so the voice recovered quite quickly afterwards. But yeah, it still had a massive effect, and for the day or so, you were just talking like this a little bit because you're a bit nasty.
I had just for this show I'll talk about the trickiest bit for me. It wasn't particularly hard, but it was a little bit terrifying. Is when Phineas holds the baby, and my Phineas hands are like an extra third the size of my actual hands, and it was someone's actual baby, and I just kept going. What if I drop their baby?
It's
and
union. It's fine.
I didn't. No. Yeah, it all went fine. But just that thing, and this was before I was a parent. Like right now, I would be petrified, even worse. But just that feeling of like, you got to play the scene, and he's really hyperactive, and like he's a very active dude, but also going 100% care with this child, 100% care with this child. No, God, yeah. One in the boot. Yeah, but that was the thing that sticks out for me, being like, that's the moment where I was like going, how am I going to do this?
Mine was justifying where Dageron was coming from and going to, because I would always have a laugh, like, because every time we shot the scenes, he was just walking past in the forest, or he was going somewhere. So it was justifying, they'll turn around and there he is, just slowly walking through the forest, squinting with there's no sun, like, and then dropping some pearls of wisdom, and then just walking off, like, where is he going, man? Where is he going? So he's always in the forest. That's why, yeah. Okay.
Right over here.
Well, that's a good question. The way that we always approached it was, we used that trope of the morphing grid. The morphing grid I always saw it as like the force. So you can tap into it and enhance it in different ways, but it's an overriding force. The way that I wrote from it was an overriding force of good, and you could tap into it with magic, you can tap into it with technology, you can tap into it with dinosaurs, but it's all just this, the goodness in the world, you know, for the lack of a better cliche. It was how in Mystic Forest they tapped into it from magic, but it's all the same source. Oh,
He wants me to say Wolf Attack in my Korag voice. And I have to remember what my Korag voice was. It was 16 years ago. Wolf Attack!
Anyone else have a question? Right over here.
Character would give it to us. I want to take advice from Xander. Xander would tell me just to be myself, I think, and just be okay with that. Whatever you are, just find it and lean into it and trust it, and to be inclusive. Although I feel like I feel like I'm kind of inclusive, but yeah, I think be myself and not be afraid. Yeah.
I think considering where Korag went, the advice might be if I knew now what I knew then, or if I knew then what I know now, I should say, I may have made some different choices. So, yeah, that would be the advice, is be careful of the choices you make.
All the questions have been really good at this panel. Like, you guys have been saving the great questions for this one, I just have to say. I'm going to go to this person in the black because you haven't asked a question yet.
the Sentai, of course, everything starts with the Sentai and examining that and seeing which motifs we can derive from that. And then that's our blueprint. And then we create off that. We think of bigger themes and we start to think of characters and sets, but it all starts with the Sentai.
Right in front.
It gets a little fuzzy because it was a long time ago. We, if we're able to get the Sentai, because back then it was like actually getting VHS tapes from Japan, so we would devour those as soon as we could to get as much information. Say, okay, they have wands, they have this and that. There's this many characters. These are the Rangers. Sometimes we had to punt a little bit because we didn't have the information. But that's how we did it back then, was trying to get the Sentai as soon as possible and starting in that creative process based on that. I can't remember in Magi Ranger if there was something fantastic in the Sentai. We tried to replicate it or bring it over. I mean, I have mad respect for that whole series and of course the immense creativity that show has. Is the basis of everything that's Power Rangers. It was raw show, and we would have interpreted scripts. So we would read it interpreted. There would be an interpreter, and we would read along and look at the episodes. I only learned a couple words of Japanese, like help me and save me. So I'm sorry about that. Saskate, help me.
So we're just about out of time, I'm afraid, because we're running a little short, but I want to end on one final question for everybody. We'll start at Jeff and work our way down. Because magic is an abstract concept and it means different things to different people. So I want to hear from each of you, what is your personal magic? What gives you magic?
For me, it's performance. I just love performing and seeing the effect it has on people, and that changes me as I perform. When I'm singing, I'm not a closet singer. I sing professionally, and I get out. And if you come to Orlando, you might get an experience of that. But yeah, when I see the effect it has on people, their faces, the smiles, the people singing along, and getting up and dancing, that you're having that impact on them, that's magic to me. I just go, that's why we do it, to just have that effect on people and make them happy, see the joy.
I second that 100% as a performer. But my magic is my kids and my family. It's my why for these auditions I don't get, and then finally booking one. It's my why that I keep showing up and trying to be part of these projects and these communities. Yeah, that's my magic.
I guess, I don't know, that's a tough question. I'd like to think that my magic is seeing the magic in others and, giving them the opportunity to experience that, and, in the work that I do, like we're all performers, and a lot of the work that I do is I direct, I suppose you'd call it community theatre, with youth at risk. And so, it's that thing where you see people, with a lot of bumps and bruises, but there's magic in there, and if you wait long enough, you're in the presence of it. So yeah, there you go. That's my magic.
I guess I'm similar to John. My family are the impetus for all the things I do. But I guess to add on to that, I think the magic is the energy between people. Whether it's family or friends, or even occasions like that. Like, just been so many moments where things have just sparked, and I guess particularly for me, because there's just so many people here who I have shared seasons with, and you become a family, and then you don't see each other for years, and just to be reminded that as soon as you're in each other's company, there's just this energy that's shared that I think makes both of you better in that moment. So yeah, for me, the magic is just energy shared with loved ones.
Just adding on that with Kelson, this young lady over here who asked the question before, she came to my table yesterday, and the absolute joy and enthusiasm she generated about how our effect on her as her first season watching Rangers just absolutely filled me full of just absolute joy. So thank you very much for sharing that with me.
They were all really nice answers. To me, the first thing that comes to mind is music. It's the only thing that kind of takes me out of this life and makes everything feel okay. And I remember that feeling from when I was a kid. And I actually saw a band last night, a jazz band, and they played La Bamba. And La Bamba is the first song I remember hearing at my nonna's house in the laundry out the back on a little stereo coming out. And I don't know if you know the song very well, but the end part, I remember it just hooking me. It was like a drug. I was like, I have to have that feeling again. And I've just followed that feeling my whole life. And I know it's a healthy drug and it's a good feeling. And that's what kind of, I need it. That's my magic.
Well, that's beautiful, Richard. Just one of the motifs that we had was not believing in magic, and fighting cynicism was part of the thing we talked about for this season. So the phrase "believing in magic" became a through line, and it doesn't necessarily mean believing in real magic. It was more about the friendship, teamwork. I love what you said, Kelson, the energy between people, and this whole convention is magical in a way that you could never write the magic that's been created in the Power Rangers universe.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for your fantastic questions. This has been your Mystic Force panel for 2022. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Could I just say one more thing? Guys, quite a few of us on the panel here are from New Zealand. We travelled a long way to be here, and we're only here because of you guys. the support that you've generated, the support and the success of the show. And so I'd like to thank you guys for making this happen for us. Just fantastic. We've got one more hour out there to go and meet heaps more of you. Hopefully have come on down and say good day. But yeah, it's been great being here with you. So I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.